Hi everyone, welcome to the Polynomials review video. Let's go ahead and get started. On problem 1, it says since Mr. Whitehead is so awesome, he gets a 20% discount on all Bearcat merchandise. And it wants us to write an equation that can be used to determine the sales price of the merchandise. And it says to use P for the original price and S for the sales price. Once again, we're supposed to write an equation. Now, 20%, when we want to change a percent into a decimal, we move the decimal place over 2 times. So 20% is the same thing as writing 0.2. So S equals the sales price, the price that Mr. Whitehead pays. And P equals the original price. So, if we're coming up with an equation for the sales price, S, we know that the sales price is the original price of the product, P, minus, and if we want to represent a 20% discount, we would put 0.2 times the original price. That would be 20% of the price. So we have the sales price equal to the original price minus 20% of the original price. Now, if we wanted to simplify that, we have 1p minus 0.2p. We'd be left with 0.8p. Mr. Whitehead pays 80% of the original price of the merchandise. Okay, moving on to number 2. It says, if the ordered pair x negative 3 is a solution to the equation 3x minus 2y equals 12, what is the value of x? Now, remember, our ordered pairs are always written in XY form. So they give us a Y value. Y is equal to negative 3. So I'm going to take this equation, and wherever I see Y, I'm going to replace it with negative 3, and then we will solve for X. So we have 3X minus 2Y, and instead of writing Y, I'm going to put in negative 3. And now I'm just going to simplify. 3X, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Equals 12. Subtract 6 from both sides, and you're left with 3x equals 6. Divide by 3, and x equals 2. That's going to be the value of x if y is negative 3. Okay? On number 3, they want to write a simplified expression that is equivalent to 3 times 2x minus y minus x minus 3 plus 5. Well, the first thing we have to do is get rid of the parentheses. And we're going to do that by distributing the 3 to the 2x and the negative 5, and then distributing this negative to the x and the negative 3. So, when you distribute the 3, you end up with 6x minus 15, and then negative x positive 3 when you distribute the negative, and then you keep the plus 5x on the end. Now we're going to combine like terms, so all of my x's I'm going to combine. So I combine my 6x, my negative x, and then my positive 5x. And then I will combine all of my constants, the negative 15 and the positive 3. And when I do that, I end up with 10x, because 6x minus x plus 5x is 10x. And then negative 15 plus 3 is negative 12. And that is my final answer for number 3. It's the simplified version. It's 10x minus 12. Okay, on problem 4, you're given the quadratic function s of t equals 5t squared minus 14t plus 3. And they want to know what the value of s of negative 2 is. On your worksheet, there might be a typo. I think some of the t's are replaced with x's in the equation. If you want to go ahead and correct that for those to become t's, that would be wonderful. Okay, so instead of writing s of t, we are going to write s of negative 2. So what you should notice is that we replaced our t's with negative 2, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the problem. So I'm going to write 5 times negative 2 squared minus 14 times negative 2 plus 3. And then I go ahead and type that in my calculator. So I'm going to type in 5. Oh, I'm in a calculator page. You're going to type in 5 and then parentheses negative 2 squared minus 14 times negative 2 plus 3. And you enter that and you end up getting 51 as your answer. So the answer to this is 51. Now, of course, you can go ahead and do this by hand. I want to caution you that the biggest mistake some people will make is they will multiply 5 and negative 2 before they square, and that is not what you should do. You have to apply the exponent 2 to the negative 2 and not the 5. So just make sure you're watching your exponent rules there before you go ahead and do that by hand. And when you're entering into your calculator, make sure you're using your parentheses correctly. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. This is actually problem 6 on your worksheet. We've gone ahead and omitted number 5 on y'all's worksheet. And so this is number 5, or number 6 on your worksheet. I apologize. And they want us to find the surface area and volume of the cube below. And the surface area formula is 6s squared. And that should be on your formula chart. And if not, it's going to be posted up in the room somewhere. So, surface area of a cube is 6s squared. And we know that s is the side length. And the side length is 2x minus 9. So, it's 6 times 2x minus 9 squared. And we can rewrite this as 6 times 2x minus 9 times 2x minus 9. Because something squared is just itself multiplied twice. So now we're going to go ahead and use the box method on this binomial times a binomial. So I'm going to come down here below and draw my little box. We have 2 terms in each, so it's going to be 2 rows and 2 columns. 2x minus 9 and 2x minus 9. Then I multiply the 2x and the 2x to give me 4x squared. I multiply the 2x and the negative 9 to give me negative 18x. Once again, I have negative 9 times 2x to give me negative 18x. And then negative 9 times negative 9 is positive 81. So my surface area is 6 times 4x squared. And when I simplify, negative 18x and negative 18x is really negative 36x. And then plus 81. Then I'm going to distribute the 6 inside the parentheses. And you end up with 24x squared minus 216x plus 482. Okay? So now we know the surface area of this cube. And we're going to fill in our blank. And now we're going to move on to volume. Volume is sides cubed. Or their side length cubed. So it's going to be 2x minus 9 cubed. And when you write that out, it's something cubed is something multiplied by itself 3 times. Well, and if you notice, we've already done 2x minus 9 times 2x minus 9 when we were finding the surface area. And that came out to be 4x squared minus 36x plus 81. So I can just replace that with 4x squared minus 36x plus 81, and then we'll multiply it by 2x minus 9. Okay? And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to call this the double distribute method, and I'm going to take 2x and multiply it by each term in the first set of parentheses. And when I do that, I end up 2x times 4x squared is 8x cubed. 2x times negative 36x is negative 72x. And 2x times 81 is positive 162x. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with the negative 9. I'll distribute the negative 9 to the 81, to the negative 36x, and to the 4x squared. And when I multiply negative 9 times 4x squared, I end up with negative 36x squared. Negative 9 times negative 36x is positive 324x. And negative 9 times 81 is negative 729. Now I combine like terms. So I have multiple x terms that I can combine. Oh, and you know what? I messed up. This should be a negative 72x squared. I apologize. So I have an x squared term here and an x squared term there. And then I have my x terms, positive 162x and a positive 324x. So now I can simplify by combining like terms. I have my x cubed term. There's only one of them, so I bring down the 8x cubed. When I combine negative 72x squared and negative 36x squared, I end up with negative 108x squared. When I combine 162x and 324x, I end up with positive 486x. And then I bring down the negative 729 for my constant. And that is my volume. So my volume is 8x cubed minus 108x squared plus 486x minus 729. Okay, moving on to problem 6. It tells us the perimeter of a football field is 250 yards. The length of the field is 4 times its width, and we need to write a system of linear equations to determine the dimensions. And then we need to find those dimensions. Well, the first sentence is where I'm going to get my first equation in my system of linear equations. And the second sentence is going to be where I get my second equation in my system of linear equations. So let's look at the first sentence first. It says the perimeter of a football field is 250 yards. Well, a football field is a rectangle, and the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. They tell us the perimeter is 250, so 250 equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. That is my first equation. Now, the second sentence tells me that the length of the football field is 4 times the width. So the length equals 4 times the width, or L equals 4 times W. And that's where I get my second equation. So now I can fill those in. 250 equals 2L plus 2W, and L equals 4 times W. Okay, now they want me to find the dimensions of the field. So I can go ahead and use the method of substitution. I know what L is, so I'm going to take what L is equal to, 4W, and replace it in the first equation of the system. So 250 equals 2 times, instead of L, I'm going to put 4W, because L is equal to 4W plus 2W. So 250 is equal to 8W. When you multiply 2 times 4W, you get 8W plus 2W. So 250 is equal to 10W. Now I can divide both sides by 10, and I end up with 25 is equal to W. The width is 25 yards. Now I can take the value that I found for the width and plug it into the second equation. The length is equal to 4 times the width, and now I know my width is 25. So the length is 4 times 25, which is 100. So my length is 100 yards. Okay, moving on to problem number 7 or 8 on your worksheet. They want us to find the area and the perimeter of the closet below. So we know area is equal to length times width. So area of this closet is 2x minus 5, the length times the width, which is 4x minus 2. I can use multiple methods. I can use FOIL method, I can use double distribute, or I can use the box method. I like to use the box method, so I have a binomial times a binomial. So I make a box with 2 columns and two rows. I put the first binomial on the top and the second binomial on the side. And when you multiply, you get 8x squared minus 20x minus 4x and a positive 10. So the area of this closet is 8x squared minus 20x minus 4x plus 10. And when you combine your like terms, the negative 20x and the negative 4x, you end up with 8x squared minus 24x plus 10. So my area is 8x squared minus 24x plus 10. Now, perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So I'm going to plug in for my length, 2x minus 5, plus 2 times my width, which is 4x minus 2. Now I'm going to distribute the 2 to the parentheses in both cases. So you end up with 4x minus 10 plus 8x minus 4. Now I combine my like terms, my x's and then my constants, and I end up with 12x minus 14. So my perimeter is 12x minus 14. Okay, moving on to the next problem. We have the area of a kitchen is 2x squared plus 13x plus 20. And the length is x plus 4. And they want us to find the width. Well, we know that area is equal to length times width. And they tell us the area is 2x squared plus 13x plus 20. And that's equal to the length, and the width is x plus 4. Well, in the majority of these cases, we're given the length and the width. For example, in the last problem, we were given the length and the width of the closet. Now we're working backwards. So this is how we do it. I'm going to make my box. And my area in the last problem ended up being what was inside my box. And the first term was in the first upper left-hand corner. So you always put 2x squared, or the first term, in the upper left-hand corner. Then I'm going to take the last term and put it in the lower right-hand corner. So I'm going to put the 20 in the lower right-hand corner. Then I take the, I'm sorry, I wrote this wrong. They give us the length, so it should be x plus 4 times w, not x plus 4 times L. I take the length that they gave me, and I put it on the top, x plus 4. And then whatever on the side, this side is going to be my width. So I have to think, x times what gives me 2x squared? Well, 2x times x gives me 2x squared. And then I have to think 4 times what gives me 20? Well, 5 times 4 gives me 20. So my width ends up being 2x plus 5. And you can always double check that by multiplying x plus 4 times 2x plus 5. And you will realize that it gives you the area that was given to you in the problem, 2x squared plus 13x plus 20. Okay, the last problem, they want us to find the area of the shaded region in the square below. Well, if we find the area of the larger square and subtract the area of the smaller square, we'll be left with the shaded region. So let's find the area of the big square first. And we know that a square, area of a square is side squared. So that's 4x plus 2 squared, which is equal to 4x plus 2 times 4x plus 2. Now, I'm going to use the FOIL method on this problem. So you multiply your first two terms together, and then your outside two terms together, and then your inside, and then your last. So, when I multiply my first two terms together, I get 16x squared. Or you can write it up here, 16x squared. Let's try that. We'll try that method. And then the outside two terms, 4x times 2 is 8x. My inside two terms is also 8x. And then my last two terms is 4. So I have 16x squared plus 8x plus 8x plus 4. And when you combine like terms, you get 16x squared plus 16x plus 4. So that is the area of the bigger square. Now let's find the area of the smaller square. And once again, we're going to do side squared. So it's, it's a rectangle inside. I apologize. So it's not a square. This white is a rectangle. So small rectangle. And area is equal to length times width. So I'm going to replace it with x plus 1 times 2x. I distribute the 2x to the x and to the 1, and that's equal to 2x squared plus 2x. So now, in order to find the shaded region, we subtract the two areas. So I'm going to subtract 16x squared plus 16x plus 4 minus the area of the bigger square minus the area of the smaller square, which was 2x squared plus 2. Well, I have to distribute this negative to get rid of the parentheses. And when I do that, I'm left with 16x squared plus 16x plus 4 minus 2x squared minus 2. And then I just combine like terms. The x squareds I combine. The x's I combine. Oh, and there's only one. And then my constants, the 4 and the 2, and the negative 2. Okay, and when I do that, my final answer becomes 14x squared. Oh, and I've made one other mistake. This should be a minus 2x. And so it should be yellow. So, once again, sorry, now combining, I get 14x squared plus 14x plus 4. And that is my area of the shaded region. So, I go back in. Oh, I don't even have a spot to fill it in. So, the area of my shaded region is 14x squared plus 14x plus 4. So, I took the area of the larger square, subtracted the smaller rectangle inside of it, and what's left over is the area of the shaded region. Okay, I hope this review video was helpful. Good luck studying for your test, and I hope you all do great. I'll see y'all tomorrow.